When I refused to sell a family heirloom to raise money for college, my daughter started making up lies about me and almost got her grandfather to ship her off to sea. Hello, my name is 45F and I'm writing to ask for help with something that my 19F daughter Chloe said. As a beginning, I'd like to give you some background on the case. Stan and I had our daughter Chloe when I was 26 years old. When we were done with college, Stan and I got married. To put it simply, he came from a wealthy family of business people. His mother died when he was a little boy from cancer, and his father raised him by himself. My 65-year-old father-in-law, Mark, had always treated me like his own daughter, and had even stood up for me in front of his own family once in a while. Stan and I had a rough time when he didn't come home very often after Chloe was born. While Chloe was 3 years old, we almost got a divorce. But Mark took us to marriage counseling, and we were able to work things out. But everything felt very fake, like a performance of who we were. Stan and I chose to stay married for the sake of our daughter Chloe, because the time before the split had also been very hard for her. The people who raised Chloe loved her very much, but they didn't love each other. Instead of working as a graphic artist, Stan ran the family business so that Chloe would never have to worry about money. The kid Chloe turned out to be a good kid who did things on her own. When Chloe got to 17, Stan told me about his 5-year relationship with his secretary, which messed up my and Stan's plan. After living with us for almost 10 years, that woman's rejection of family felt like a breach of trust. It caused a lot of stress in our home, and Mark almost made Stan give up his will because he wasn't paying attention. I was too tired to keep up the act, so I decided that day to end my relationship with Stan and finally file for divorce. Chloe didn't say anything, but she had to move every weekend and spent most of her time living with her dad in a side flat, so she definitely took the brunt of it. In the end, his house was closer to school. I did everything I could to make her move as smooth as possible, making sure I didn't fight with Stan every time I saw him and giving her the best of everything. Chloe had made up with her by the end of her final year of high school. She wants to be like her father and grandfather, and Mark told me that he was going to start a new business in Chloe's name and give it to her when she graduates from college. Her hard work during the school year paid off as she was accepted into a good business school. She told us we had to pay, and as a mom, I was willing to pay half of the fees and have Stan pay the other half. She wasn't able to get any grants or cash aid. Stan's sidekick knew she was pregnant because she told him. I began to save money, and I was able to get the 50% by putting together savings from other people. Due to an event, we lost touch a bit during her final year. In other words, as I said before, I had really thought about being there for Chloe after my split from Stan. Chloe is a great musician and put on a skill show for the seniors. Since it was a weekday, Stan and I agreed to go. I called Stan on the day of the play to see if he was there because I had to be at work for some reason. He told me that since I was there, he thought it was fine for him and his girlfriend to be at the hospital because the doctor's appointment took longer than planned. I was scared by the thought, so I called Mark to see if he could make it to the show, but he didn't answer either. Stan and I both quickly got out of our tough spot and got there by the end of the show. Chloe had one, but none of her family was there. That's how we found her going home by herself. When she saw us, she sneaked into the car without us noticing. When we tried to ask her about it, she got very angry, which we could see why. She told him it was okay to be late because he was taking care of his child's mother, but I had to work when I was supposed to drop my child off with Stan at his place. I felt very sad about this, but I knew it was coming from a hurt place, so I didn't say anything. I promised to make it up to her that weekend, so I took her to her favorite place for lunch. But I don't think our friendship was the same after that. Chloe came to my house for a long holiday after her tests because my husband's mistress was pregnant and needed more room. During lunch one day, Chloe asked me if I was going to take care of her college bills so she could tell me everything about how much they would be. It was agreed upon that I would pay half of the fees since her father would also be contributing. She told him it was clear that he wouldn't be making such a big payment now that he had a new child live with him. Now that I was feeling a little stressed, I told Chloe that I didn't have that much money and that Stan shouldn't have thrown away his first child just because he was going to have another one. She almost begged me to help her pay because she was afraid she would have to get a student loan if I didn't. Another thing she said was that she didn't blame her dad or his girlfriend for not being able to pay the bills. We really didn't have enough money, so I told her the loan would be a good idea. She got angry and ran away. It seems like she thought I would pay for everything instead of getting a loan. I didn't talk to her the I would give her space for the rest of the day because I thought it was right. The next morning, Chloe was not there at all. I called her and found out she was out with a friend and would be back soon. She came back around noon and walked up to me with a very excited look on her face. What made her happy? I asked her, and she put this jewelry on my table. The blue diamond necklace that my late mother put there was hers. Our family wasn't very rich or comfortable when I was a kid, so this very expensive necklace, which had been in my family since my great-great-grandma, was seen as a lucky sign. To find out where Chloe's great-grandma was seen as a lucky sign. To find out where Chloe got the necklace, I asked her. She said she found it in the attic with the rest of Mom's stuff. She said that she found out how valuable the jewelry was after having a friend look at it. She then told me that if I sold this necklace, I could pay for all of her college costs. I was shocked by what she said because this was something that had been passed down to me and my family for many generations. I thought it was odd that my daughter, who would finally get this, wanted me to sell it when I didn't have to. Chloe looked very happy, but I decided to make her feel better by telling her that this family heirloom was too important to sell. She said that because she was family, it wouldn't help her if it couldn't, but I kindly said no and asked that we stop talking about it. She was in her room when I went to check on her. She was mad, and she was getting ready to go see her dad. I tried to convince her that it wasn't such a big deal and that we could work something out, but she just said no and left. When Chloe's graduation date got closer, I naturally thought I would get an invitation to her school. Instead, I got an invitation to the after party at Stan's house. I emailed Chloe because I thought something was wrong. She told me that the school only let one parent come, so I reluctantly gave her permission. Make plans to get her dad. Later that day, Chloe shared something on Instagram that made me angry. It had pictures of her graduation ceremony with Stan and his woman. I chose not to let the day bother me and to just get through it. For some reason, it looked like nothing had happened at the graduation party. Mark tried to make me feel better about missing Chloe's graduation celebration, but I told him I was sick and didn't need his support. But when it was her turn to speak, Chloe stepped up to the microphone and thanked everyone. There was no end to her talk about how her soon-to-be stepmother was her good charm and the reason she was so successful. She kept talking about Stan and his new family, so I thought she would bring me up at some point. But the speech ended without naming me. Mark could tell by the look on my face that this made me sad. From a distance, it looked like they were in a very heated argument. Then he went straight to Chloe to talk to her and left a few minutes later. After that, Chloe came up to me and asked to talk alone, so I went to her room with her. When her grandpa Mark told her she wasn't giving me credit for her success, she yelled at him and said I ruined her special day. It was her fault that he was getting in the way because she didn't know the whole story. He stormed off and told her that he did know everything. She claimed that I was a spy because I had told Mark about her and hurt her friendship with him. I tried to tell her that it wasn't me who told him about our conversation, but she wouldn't listen. She told me to leave right away. After getting myself together, I left, feeling terrible about everything. Late that night, Chloe called me crying and begging with me to go to Stan's house right away. I got a little scared and went right to his house. When I walked in, I saw Mark and his friend Stan sitting on the couch, with Chloe crying nearby. When I asked what was going on, I found out that Stan had called Mark the day after Chloe had gone to his house after our fight and asked for either money for her college education or Mark's help getting me to pay the full amount. Mark was mad at Stan for making me work for free so he wouldn't have to pay for her own daughter, and he went silent. Chloe and Mark hadn't talked to each other since that day. Mark lost his temper and told Chloe something she didn't want to hear when she wouldn't take my name and gave a silly reason. He did, however, tell me I should be honest with him about what had really happened between Chloe and me. I told him everything. He felt the same way I did about the idea of selling a family history that wasn't needed. Then he got up and scolded Chloe for how she was treating me. He then pulled out the paperwork for the business he had set up for Chloe to get as a graduation gift. He ripped it up in front of everyone after telling Chloe about it, stating that he was wrong to believe Chloe was a great child and that he would stop spoiling her. Everyone was shocked, and Chloe started crying so hard that she couldn't stop, begging with Mark to stop being so mean to her. After acting like such a spoiled brat, Mark turned to me and asked me not to give Chloe the money I had saved for her college. After that, he left without saying anything to me. Then Chloe begged me to convince Mark to give her back the future firm while Stan and his assistant kept saying I was to blame for starting this fight. I told Chloe I would think about it, but I just couldn't handle everything, so I went back home. I get a lot of texts from Stan and Chloe the next morning begging me to talk to Mark and make things right. I still don't think it was my fault, but I'm really stressed out about it, and I'm thinking about inviting Mark to dinner tonight to talk about it. If I don't sell my family treasure to pay for college for my daughter, am I the bad guy for not ruining her future? Update 1. Hi there. First, I'd like to answer some questions about the first post. At first, why wasn't Mark able to help pay for Chloe's school? Mark is very wealthy, but he still believes that people should work for their jobs. Because of this, he wasn't willing to pay for Chloe's training on its own. While she was still in school, he was happy to hire her right away. As I said, Stan had enough money to live comfortably, but not as much as his father. He had money saved up for his new family and child. I don't like Stan's girlfriend because Chloe has always found her to be kind and loving, but she has hurt me. She will be Chloe's future wife. Stan and I decided to get a divorce. At first, Chloe didn't like her, but over the years they became closer because we both had parents who didn't work well with us and had grown up with step-parents as children. Before now, I didn't fully understand what they did. Friendship. The truth is that I told Mark what had happened over dinner, and we both agreed that it wasn't fair for him to refuse to keep Chloe company and for me to refuse to pay for her. Mark made it very clear through Chloe's actions at her party that she would not have valued any of it. Not only did she act like she deserved everything, but she also didn't seem to want to do well on her own, which made him sad. He taught me that I shouldn't expect anything in return when I give her the money I had saved for her, and that I shouldn't be upset if Chloe leaves me for her new family one day. Mark left after telling me it wasn't my fault. After he left, I called Chloe to tell her that her grandpa wouldn't give her a job at the company until she did well. She went crazy when she found out this and began swearing at me and blaming me for everything that went wrong. Stan had to take the phone away from her because she couldn't stop talking on it. After hearing what she said on the phone, I'm not sure if I should pay for half of her college costs. My friend Mark told me the next day that he and Stan were having another rough argument. Stan said that Mark and I were harming Chloe and making her unhappy by being unfair to her. Stan was brave enough to ask Mark why he was leaving his daughter, even though Mark was the one leaving. He had enough money to pay for her too. When he kept pointing the finger at other people, Mark made sure to tell him that he would lose his job at the company he ran. Stan pretty much quit talking and supporting Chloe after that. Even his woman tried to convince Mark by saying she was showing him how to deal with family. She wasn't as rich as Mark though, so she refused to pay him when he asked her to pay for Chloe instead. I tried to get in touch with Chloe after our last chat to see how she was doing. As a result, it looks like I'm not allowed to call or use any social media sites, so it makes sense that I'm not paying for her college anymore. To learn. Second update. The last report was a week ago, and since then, nothing has happened. Even though I know that giving in to my daughter's wishes will only make her act out more, I'm still pretty set on not giving her money. Still, I feel bad that I don't help my own daughter with her schoolwork. This report talks about what happened after that. As was already said, Chloe was a mess because she knew she would have to pay off her school loans and probably wouldn't be joining the family business. I don't like that girl, but I'm glad Chloe has someone she can talk to about her feelings because I've heard Stan's lover has been there for her the whole time. After a few days, Mark also thought life was over. Too short to be angry after losing his granddaughter because of money problems. He still wasn't going to give her any money or help in any other way, but wanted to talk to her to find out what went wrong and figure out how we could make things right between us going forward. After Chloe agreed to see him, they went to lunch together, but things didn't go as planned. Before Mark asked Chloe why she hadn't invited me to her graduation, everything was going well after we talked. Chloe had made up a whole story about how she had begged me to pay half of her fees and asked about the necklace to make things easier for me, but I told her she was being too spoiled while trying to persuade her grandpa. For some reason, she said, she was still inviting me to the graduation. The offer was still there, but I turned it down. Now, I was the victim. Mark, who is a smart guy, decided to check with me again after hearing her out, so I know about this event. When Mark asked me why I turned down the offer, I started crying because I knew how far Chloe had gone to make fun of me. Besides telling him the truth, I made it clear that I wasn't invited to her party. Chloe must have forgotten about the talk she showed him before she lied about graduation on purpose. Mark was very unhappy at this point, so he called Chloe to tell her that they wouldn't be dating until she stopped lying. In addition, I chose to text her from Mark's cell phone to let her know that I didn't want to talk to such a rude kid. When Stan's girlfriend texted me a few times, she called me names and said mean things about her family, so I blocked her because I knew she wasn't worth my time. Third update, I never thought things would get this bad and I'd need to write another one, so quickly. What Chloe learned from her conversation with Mark was that the only way to get people to support her was to make up a story and spread it. She made me the bad guy by posting a few videos on her TikTok account in which she said I was a bad mother and that I had messed up a lot of things that happened to her when she was young. She was so mean that she said hurtful things about my partnership with Mark. My friend who is following my daughter on these new social media sites told me about the problem since I don't use them. I decided this was it and sent an email to Stan, Chloe and Stan's girlfriend Stan. All the rules had been broken, telling them I would sue them for slander if they didn't get rid of the video right away. A friend of mine told me I didn't need to worry because the post didn't get many views. It was Mark's choice to send Chloe an email that looked like mine when he realized what had happened. Later that night, I got a call from a distant cousin who wanted to know what was going on with Chloe and basically accused me of not protecting my child. I found out that the TikTok had become very famous in our neighborhood when I asked her how she knew. It was my choice to download the app so I could see what other people were talking about. Chloe liked the mean things people said about me, which hurt my image. My phone and email were also full of hate mail from both strangers and people I knew. I finally chose to sue her and Stan because I couldn't believe how gross my own child was, but not before telling the world my side of the story. I did put up a few of my own films. I backed up my claims with proof, and they got a lot more views than I thought they would. There were now people on the internet who were rooting for me, and Chloe thought it would be best to message me to make things right and get the posts taken down because of all the hate that was being sent her way. She thought I would do what she said, which made me mad. She was told to tell Stan to meet me the next day at his dad's office. Mark and I decided that we would sue Chloe and Stan as her guardians for defamation after we talked about everything. He had already been through a lot, and all of this bad press was hurting Mark's business. The next day, Stan and Chloe went to Mark's office. Mark told Stan and Chloe that they would be sued for slander. He did this with his lawyer by his side. Because she was scared of having to go to court for her little videos, Chloe deleted the TikToks she had shared right away to get rid of any proof. She begged Mark to stop ruining her future as she cried like an animal when he showed her the screen pictures of the tapes. Stan even tried to get me to take back the case by making me feel bad about what he did, but I told him not to because he didn't stop the disaster in the first place. It getting in the way at this time. To be honest, this has caused me a lot of stress, and it's even worse when it's my own child. The time has come for me to stop using social media for now. When I get back from my online holiday, I'll read the comments. As of this writing, a few months have passed and the problem has been fixed, so it seems likely that this is the last update. Additionally, I want to say thanks to everyone who provided feedback in the comments. I really value your assistance. So a lot has changed since the last time, especially with Chloe. Since everything happened right before the holiday, we chose to make the report on Monday. Mark called me on the phone on Saturday. They want me to go to Stan's place right now. I quickly looked around and saw what had happened. It was really scary. So, after we told Stan and Chloe what was going on, they went home and got into a very angry argument. Because of this, Stan's girlfriend had trouble breathing and had to be taken to the hospital. After the checkup, she took the child home and made sure they were both safe. Chloe felt bad about putting her health at risk and wanted to say sorry, but they got into an angry fight instead. People told Chloe to give Stan's girlfriend some space, but Chloe kept bothering Stan's lover because she wanted to know that her apology was understood. Everything got worse because of this, and it was clear she was very angry. Stan was able to stop the fight before it got physical, and Chloe pushed Stan's lover out of the way. Anger. If Chloe knew what she had done, she would have cried and run to her room. After a few hours, she came down and was shocked to see all of us sitting there. As soon as she understood what she had done, she told Stan's lover she was sorry and that what she had done was wrong. Stan told Chloe that he thought she was dangerous to both his future child and his pregnant partner, and he wanted her to leave their home right away. Chloe tried to say sorry again because she was shocked by what happened, but Stan's girlfriend told her that she had no other choice for her to use. When Chloe realized what she had done, she made this happen to herself. I still thought it was mean. Mark asked Chloe to stay with him until things got better, and she had no choice but to say yes. Stan began to cry and asked his dad to take back the case we were about to file when Chloe left to pack her bags. He said he would rather end his relationship with Chloe if it meant giving up his freedom, because he didn't want to get in trouble with the law at this very important time in his life. Truly, everyone in the room had their mouths pressed to the floor. I understand that Chloe wasn't perfect, and, to be honest, wasn't even a good person at this point, but Stan wasn't helping anyone by cutting off contact with one of his children to help another who hadn't even been born. Mark and I looked at each other blankly while we waited for Stan's fiancée to say something. She only said that nothing was their fault and agreed with Stan completely. As I already said, this was too small to come from Chloe's father, even if she was mean. Stan kept calling Mark, but Mark didn't answer. When Chloe came downstairs, Mark and I went with her. The next day, Chloe sent me an apology message on Mark's phone. She also said that her grandpa had told her everything and that her dad was going to throw her out. Also, she said she found out too late that I was the only parent who really cared about her. Instead of forgiving her right away, I told her to take care of herself. That night, I called Mark. And because Chloe had a lot on her plate already, we both agreed that it wouldn't be a good idea to go after the defamation case against her right now because she clearly needed help. When we told Chloe she could leave, she accepted right away, but only if she apologized for Mark and me on all of our social media accounts. In the same post, she also said that she was no longer talking to her daughter or his lover. When Stan found out that the case had been dropped, he tried to call Chloe to say sorry for bringing up the idea of disowning her, but she decided to put up with him instead. She let out all of her anger and told him everything, from how he was cheating on her to why he was leaving her. He knew the relationship was over after that. Didn't have anything else to say. Chloe chose to work by herself and had taken out a loan for school. She did apologize for what happened when she stopped by my house before she left. When I told her that our relationship needed a lot of work and asked for some space, she agreed. I was able to forgive her. Chloe is getting help for her mental health issues and looking for work close to her college site right now. We don't talk to each other very often, but we'd like to have her over for the holidays. Stan seems to be happy with his new family, but Mark doesn't spend much time with her either. He has told his father, though, that he feels bad about breaking up with his daughter.